How are you doing? This is David W. Williams, also known as Diamond Dave, the founder of the highest paid part-time job in the world, Options Training Academy. And what we're going to talk about is why everybody is making money except for you. And this is going to be a good video for a lot of people that kind of want to understand how come I can look around my environment and I see everybody so successful, especially in business. We're in an era where I think over the past maybe 2.5 years, the Federal Reserve has printed around 40% of the amount of money that's ever been inside the circulation inside the United States. So you printed a massive amount of money. We have a massive amount of liquidity. There's a lot of money in the environment, and I can't figure out how to make any money. And I'm sometimes scared to make money because I hear all these stories online of people talking about how this person got caught doing something illegal, yada, yada, yada. And that can kind of scare me from doing anything different. But in reality, you don't really have to do anything illegal to make a lot of money, because we're in an era where there's a massive amount of liquidity in the economy. Now, they're getting ready to tighten some of that now, but pretty much over the past 2 to 3 years, there's been a massive amount of liquidity in the economy. And even when they tighten it up, just the way the America's set up, there's a massive amount of liquidity in this economy. Unlike other parts of the world where money is they're very illiquid, money controls are very, very tight. There is a lot of money in the American economy. And therefore, we want to kind of ask ourselves, how come so many people are successful making money and everybody else can't figure it out? And is there something special? Are they doing something special? Or have they just kind of figured out what it's going to take to make money? And then when they pursued it, while everybody else doesn't either really have that desire or they don't have the desire to kind of do what's going to be necessary. So the first question you want to ask yourself is, how can you be surrounded by so many people making money and you can't? I'm sorry about the typo, right? How can you be surrounded by so many people making money and you can't? And if you can hear me, kind of let me know what part of the country that you're coming out of. Let me know that you can actually get my audio, and we're going to go ahead and take it from there. So for the average person that's watching this particular video, that's going to watch it like in posterity or watch it archived, how can you be surrounded by so many people making money and you can't? And that's going to always be the big question. If you're looking at a bunch of other people making money and being successful, how come you can't? So now the first question you want to ask yourself is that, do you really want to do it? Do you really want to do it, or do you just want to watch everybody else do it? And as long as watching them do it is entertaining to you, you're cool. You just want to be entertained, right? So do you really want to do it? Do you really want to be successful in this particular space? Do you have a goal to be successful in these particular endeavors? That's the first thing you want to ask yourself. So one thing I want really people to really understand, and that's going to be the underlying tone of this particular video, is intentionality. And it has to start with your life a lot of times. So really what you're doing in your life is what you've decided to be intentional about. And for a lot of people, that could be difficult for them to accept, right? So your ability to be successful in business, your ability to be successful making money is really going to be a byproduct of what's going on in your day-to-day life. So then the question is, have the people that are making money decided to be intentional about it, and the people that are not making money decided to not be intentional about it? And I don't mean being like a multi-millionaire. I mean, if you just make an extra $2,000 a month, because many people can't figure that out. So in a world where everybody can, not everybody, but in a world where a lot of people can figure out how to bring in some extra income, we also have mass amounts of people that can't figure that out. And they just sit back and watch everybody else do it. And then they're susceptible to a lot of things that are going on in their life. Why? Because I don't have the ability to get to a certain level financially. I don't have any goals in that particular area. So I just got to take what comes with it. But to me, the most important thing is intentionality. What are your intentions in this particular area? And really, they're going to be a byproduct of your intentions in life, right? So if you have very strong intentions on your personal life, that a lot of times bleeds into your business. If in your personal life, you're kind of like, I'm going to take things as they come. I don't have real goals. I don't have real objectives I'm trying to hit. Normally, that's going to impact you in business. That's the massive amount of people that just sit back and become entertained, right? So they're entertained by somebody else being successful because they're not intentional about their own success in certain areas of their life. And so that's the question a lot of people don't want to ask themselves. So this is the reason, in my opinion, why so many people get scammed. Why? Because they haven't decided to be intentional about what they're going to do. They've decided to be entertained about what somebody else is doing. I don't expect another person to make me rich unless that's the deal. But I don't think that I'm going to give somebody $100 and they're going to turn me into a millionaire. I don't believe that. I don't believe the markets work that way, right? So my intentions are different. So then therefore I'm not susceptible, or I don't come in contact with people with those kind of offers, because I don't believe that stuff exists. And I'm not going to make a whole YouTube channel around it. I don't believe I'm going to give somebody $100 and they can give me back $100,000. I don't believe that exists. Can it happen? Yeah. But that's not what I'm looking for. So those aren't my intentions. Therefore, those type of offers don't present themselves in front of me. And that's what I want people to really understand. The next question is, so some of the things that you may have tried to make money, right, and you weren't successful. You tried to find success, right? And we're really talking about business, but really it's going to be a byproduct of your life, and you weren't successful. So for a lot of people, they tried the quick way. So the quick way is, I'm going to put $100 into this crypto and I'm going to get back 100,000 because I've seen somebody else do it. Or I'm going to buy this course and I'm going to be successful in 60 or 90 days, right? Now, college don't work that way. Trade school don't work that way. But people want the course selling space to work that way for them because they want the quick way. Or, I'm going to learn from this person. And if they can't make me successful in 30 to 60 days, then, they're a phony or they're a scammer. Because I'm trying the quick way, right? I want to get to where I want to get fast. And that's a lot of people's idea of how things are supposed to work. Now, college don't work that way. And they would never go to, I live in the state of Texas. They would never go to University of Texas and tell them people, hey, man, if you can't make me successful in 90 days, you're a scammer. Because they've been socialized not to talk to those people like that. But everybody else, if they can't get them successful in a relatively short amount of time, then it's a scam. I have people reach out to me all the time. They say, David, if I buy your course, how long will it take me to get successful? You know what I tell them? You're the wrong person for the course, right? You're the wrong person, because nobody goes to medical school and asks the medical people, if I enter into medical school, how long will it take me to become successful as a doctor, right? Nobody goes to law school and says, if I go into law school, how long will it take me to become a successful attorney, right? They wouldn't talk to those people like that. But for some reason in the course selling space, people are looking for the quick result, and they want you to tell them that they're going to get a quick result. And so when somebody asks me if they put any kind of time period on when do I think they're going to be successful, I say you're the wrong person for the course. You're just the wrong person. You're not the right person for it. Because to me, you're acting in a spirit of desperation, and that's going to put you in a bad position as a trader, because it's almost impossible to trade desperate and to become successful. So you're just the wrong person. I don't want your money because you're not a good candidate for this particular offer, right? Because they're looking to try to do it the quick way. But this is a byproduct of their life. Many of us wait till we get in a bad situation, and then we look for somebody else to turn our situation around real fast. And that's what we're marketed to, because let me tell you how marketing works. I can create the most absurd offer in the world that doesn't even really make any good sense. And I put it into the marketplace. And if people respond to it, you know what it tells me? The situation that they're in. So I can put out an offer saying, I'm going to make you rich because I have this unique mechanism, which is a marketing term. I have this unique mechanism based around this software, and it's making people rich every day. And if you pay me $500, I'm going to put you into this software, and it'll make you successful in 60 days or less. Right? Now, the person that responds to that offer tells me a lot about their condition. Right? Because I couldn't go to certain parts of the country and pitch that offer and get any response. Why? Because they would know that's an absurd offer. So that's what people got to understand. There's an audience of people that are looking for the quick way. And they're just going to keep trying the quick way until it works, but most likely it's never going to work. Why? Because most success doesn't happen overnight. It's a run-up to the success, and then the success triggers, but the run-up was relatively never short. It takes time, and I'm going to kind of talk about that in this video, right? Then you may have tried osmosis. What I mean by osmosis, I'm going to just hang around the people that are successful, hoping I get that success. The MLM space, they promote this a lot, and they're not wrong, because association and networks are very important. But they're just not the only way you're going to get successful unless it's your family. Now, if it's your family, yeah, you can become successful through osmosis. Why? Because they're going to put you in the game and they're going to set you up. Why? Because you're family. But if you're not family, it can be difficult to become successful just through osmosis. What I mean is that I hang around a bunch of people that are successful, and then I think that's going to make me successful. I don't do anything else. I just know these people. You got to do something. Now, can it help make introductions? Can it connect you to certain type of deals? Yes. But at the end of the day, you still got to put some work in, right? And if you've never had any success, you just associating with successful people, it can be difficult unless, like I said, it's a lightning in a bottle, right place at the right time. But when you look at like the MLM space, they promote this to a lot of their people. Come to this event and you could be around all the high income earners. Well, that's cool if you're working. But if you're just watching YouTube videos and watching this particular person that signs you into that deal, watching all their Instagram posts, and you're not doing any work to try to drive sales on that particular offer, you go into that event, ain't gonna help you. Why? Because you're not doing any work. You're just thinking that I'm just in the room with a bunch of people that are making six figures or greater, is all of a sudden through osmosis, I'm going to all of a sudden become a six-figure earner. Don't work that way. Now, if you're working, people in that room can add value to your situation. Why? Because you're working. So they can say, hey, explain to me how you're doing this. And you can explain it. Okay, maybe you should configure it like this. Or when I was in your situation, I was making 50 grand a year. What got me to the 100 was I did 1, 2, 3, and that's what elevated me. You may want to try to incorporate some of that into your situation. But if you're doing nothing and all you've done is just gone to the event, I don't understand what they can do to help you. And that's something I had to learn, right? I was in a room one time with people, man, that was spending like 100K on Facebook ads. I wasn't doing enough work in my space to be able to benefit from their counsel. Why? Because I wasn't doing enough work. I had to get to a certain level where even what they were talking about would even make sense to my situation. Right? You can't just get there through osmosis, in my opinion. Right? Some people may have a different opinion, and that's cool. So many people have tried osmosis and it doesn't work. And then they get soured on different industries because they thought, oh, I'm going to get successful just through osmosis. Right? It doesn't always work, especially in business. It may work if you're trying to get a job from somebody. Then you may have gotten discouraged and become a cynic of everything. And you see a lot of that on the internet. And there's a market to appeal to those people. I've tried this. I tried the quick way. That didn't work. I tried osmosis. That didn't work. So now I'm discouraged. And then now I'm cynical about everything. And then now, because I failed at so many things, there's a market now to just agitate my anger. And I now have a bunch of people on the YouTube, on Twitter, to agree with me that we should be angry about the fact that we failed at so many things. Right? So then you just become a cynic of everything. There's a lot of people on the YouTube where, they have whole sectors that they just talk about. And that's how they become popular, but they really add no value, give no education to their audience, except just teaching them how to be more of a cynic. Right? But the audience feels good because, wow, I'm surrounded by a bunch of people that think the same way I think. So I get that sense of commonality. But that is not going to allow you to become successful at anything but just becoming more of a cynic. I'm very pragmatic, but I'm not cynical about everything because I've seen a lot of things work in this world that I never thought would work. Because I remember when Bitcoin was $300. Then I remember when it was $2,000. Then I remember when it was $60,000. So if you would have listened to me, you wouldn't have bought in at 400 or 200 and you would have missed out on millions. Right? But I didn't believe in Bitcoin in 2012, 2014. I was like, what is that? But I was wrong about it. I can admit I was wrong about it. Other people can't. So that's what you got to understand, is that there's a way to be pragmatic about things, but being cynical about everything, there's very few people that are successful. And if they are successful, they're not as successful as they could be, but they're as successful as they're going to be. Why? Because they're cynical about everything. Everything they're cynical about. They're just very sour people. But that's a byproduct of their life. It got very little to do with their business. Some people are just sour. And you just got to accept that and move on. That's just their personality. Right? So here's some of the things that you may want to try and incorporate into your situation, because this is what worked for me. And I'm going to kind of give you my story of how I really started to become a successful trader, because it was a process. And so let me really quickly kind of get you to understand. And I think that even if you're not a trader, you can take things from this and apply it to your situation, because a lot of the parallels of being successful are relevant regardless of the particular space. There's a lot of principles that I believe that you can apply, right? But really quickly, before we get into that, this particular show is sponsored by the highestpaid.online. It's an options trading academy that we created. It's designed for 3 people in the particular society. Person that is working a 9 to 5, they don't like the amount of money that they're making. They understand that inflation is pretty much going to crush their spending power, right? They don't like the fact that they got to take a lot of time away from their family to make the money that they're making, even though inflation is going to crush their spending power. And they don't like the fact that there's a ceiling on their income where they know at the beginning of the year, I'm going to make $35,000 a year, maybe 40 if I'm lucky, and inflation's still going to crush my income. And so we figured out how to solve those particular problems by teaching people how to leverage the financial markets, but specifically at trading options. And we have had success in this particular area because we approach this in a different way, and we're going to keep on having success. And I'm going to kind of go into the particular story of how I was able to have success as a trader, and you should be able to take some principles from this and apply this to your situation, even if you're not a trader. Because when I first came into the space, right, when I first got into these markets, what I want you to understand is that a lot of people were making money and I wasn't. So first I learned how the actual financial markets worked. Then I moved into the derivative space. And a lot of people were making money and I wasn't. Right? And I couldn't figure out what they were doing that I wasn't doing. But they were making a lot of money. I mean, I know people that was pulling back 10,000, 15,000 a month out of the options market. Right? And I wasn't making anything. I was lucky to make, well, I was making something. I was lucky to make $250. I was trading really small positions, $40 contracts, $60 contracts, right? Trading primarily bank derivatives, right? But I couldn't really figure out what was it going to take for me to get to that level, right? But what I didn't do is I didn't look for the quick way. I didn't think just by like being in a trading group or being on their Facebook or their social media page, they were going to drop the silver bullet that was going to make it turn around for me. And I definitely didn't get discouraged. Because one thing about me is I've always believed I'm not the smartest person in the world. I don't pick up things as fast as other people. But I'm just not going to stop coming at the situation. I just won't. One, because I'm not intimidated by it. So the difference between me and a lot of people is that because I won't stop and I'll keep going, eventually I'm able to find my success. And that's what I want people to really understand. So then while I was doing this, I figured out what are some of the steps that allowed me to become successful. And we're going to kind of go through those particular steps. But I want to show you how I missed out on a lot of money because I wasn't positioned to make the money. But what I didn't try to do is figure out the easy button to making the money. And I'm going to kind of show you that. So let's go ahead and get into it, right? Because I'm going to show you an example. Let's go here. Okay, so this is a play for a particular ticker called Snow, right? And I want to say this was 2021. And Snow was a position to where at this point in my trading journey, I knew enough about the market to understand what was going on and how I could profit, right? And so I was able to take advantage of this downturn. However, if I would have had more money into play, I could have made well more money. But because of the work that I had done before this play presented itself, when it presented itself, I knew exactly what I was looking at. And people that knew me on social media, especially back this when I was really heavy on Facebook, I kept telling them, this is a great opportunity on the short side. And if you look at the chart, it shot up to 400 and it sold all the way down. It was because of the way in which they structured this particular deal. It was because of the size of the float. Everything set up to make this a very profitable play. But if I hadn't done the work ahead of time to put myself in position to take advantage of this, I never would have been able to recognize this. Because one thing about me is I'm always looking at this market. So the question people really want to ask is that, what did I do to put myself in a position to get money out of this market? Because there was a time in which people were getting money out of the market and I wasn't. The number one thing I did is I focused on my skills. I ignored everything else. Right? There was a time where you could have put this play in front of me and I never would have been able to recognize it. I was able to go look at the SEC documents and understand exactly what was going on with this company and how events were going to happen to put me in a position to be profitable just off the SEC documents. I didn't watch nobody's YouTube video. I didn't have somebody tell it to me through some some tip. I didn't get it because I follow somebody's social media. I was able to look at the SEC documents and understand this is very likely going to happen as a result of the way in which this deal is structured out. How did I get to that point? Because I focused on my skills and ignored almost everything else. So when I'm looking at people, and I may bring him on the show one day, he got his own situation, a guy named Court Biggs. When I'm looking at people like Lance, when I'm looking at Corey Camp and Jimmy from By the Hood, it was another guy that taught me options market named, I think his name is Jimmy Johnson with Discover Your Options. I'm looking at them, but I said, you know what? The reason why they're doing what they're doing is because their skill level is higher than mine. So what I got to do is I got to get my skills up. And there's no one piece of information that's going to allow that to happen. I got to learn and put my time into this particular game. There's no one book that's going to you read the book and everything's going to change for you. It doesn't work that way. If you want to be skilled, you got to learn the skills and then keep applying them and then, evaluate, go apply them again, evaluate, and you keep doing it. And then over time, you'll get to a certain level to where what used to be hard eventually starts becoming easy. Let me show you another play, right? Because I was able to capitalize on this. Let me show you a play I missed out on. This is Eastman Kodak, right? Okay, so let me get rid of this banner. If you look at those lines, so what I did was I got the news that Trump was supposedly going to give Kodak a deal to do pharmaceutical manufacturing. I looked at the options chain, but I really looked at the volume of the company. I was like, nobody trades this. If you look at the line to the left of those green bars, that shows like almost zero trading activity. So I'm like, man, nobody trades this company. So I didn't buy the options on it, but I knew about that deal. I found out about it on Twitter. So I looked at the options chain. I think the $10 contract was $500. That was on a Tuesday. That information hit the news wire on Wednesday. Kodak blew up. That same contract, I want to say, was maybe $1,500 to $2,000 later that morning. Then it got up to 60, started to sell down. On the Thursday, it started to sell off. I got into puts that afternoon. Friday, I got into more puts. Monday, I got into even more puts. So I layered puts on that play. But what happened was it didn't just fall off a cliff. It started to trade sideways. I didn't understand enough about volatility to know I should have just went and got out of the play with my profit. I stayed in that play thinking it was eventually going to fall off a cliff, but it didn't. It started to trade sideways. So now my money and my capital is tied up in this particular play, right? Even though I'm profitable, but I'm thinking it's going to eventually fall off a cliff. It's going to fall back to like $4, $3. And then that spiking in volatility is going to make my contracts a lot more profitable. But I didn't know at that time that I should have probably just exited because I was getting volatility crushed. And even though I wasn't losing profit, I wasn't going to make any more profit. I pretty much had stalled out. What happened was this play came up. Let me show you this. This is Tesla. So then the Tesla news came up, and you know what happened? My money was tied into the Kodak play. So then by the time I got my money out of the Kodak play and put it into the Tesla play, the IV on contracts has spiked up. Why? Because now it's running. So I made good money on the Tesla play, but I knew a guy named Court he probably put in less than, I want to say maybe less than 3,000 and probably made like 50 grand on options contracts. Because Tesla at that time could make you a lot of money because this was right before the stock split. So Tesla was a small float that was very volatile. So on a run up like this, you can make a lot of money because you're dealing with a very small float, a lot of pressure on the options on the call side. IV spikes really, really high, premium spike up in regard to that particular situation. But I didn't have the skills yet to know, get out of this play and to go into this play. This is a much more better opportunity here because of the situation. And I was trading Tesla at that time, but I didn't know what I didn't know. So it just goes to show you that I had to keep working on my skills. I missed out on opportunities, but it wasn't because somebody didn't tell me. It wasn't because I wasn't in somebody's trading group and they didn't give me the alert. It's because I didn't have the skills to navigate that situation, to put myself in the best position to be successful. I had to just really put my time in and learn from these scenarios. But all I worked on was my skills. So that's all I worked on. So I focused on my skills and I focused on nothing else. Another thing I did was I made market-based education, right, really be my entertainment. So let me ask the people that, that are in the markets, that are, trying to be traders, things of that nature, right? So I know you watch a lot of YouTube. I know y'all on Twitter, y'all in these trading groups. Let me ask you, do you watch these kind of videos? Let me go ahead and share this out real quick.
Now, I hear a lot today, especially from our readers. They look at the economy, they look at how high inflation is, and they look at the state of monetary policy and they say the Fed is not reacting with the same urgency. What do you say to people who say that you are not treating high inflation today like an emergency?
Well, I guess I would start by saying this, Nick, that we know that this is a time for us to be tightly focused on the path ahead and on getting inflation back down to 2%. We know how people are suffering from high inflation, and we have both the tools and the resolve to get inflation back down. And no one should doubt our resolve in doing that. And I think if you look at how quickly we've moved in the last few months, really, then you'll see that financial conditions have tightened quite a bit. What we need to see is inflation coming down in a clear and convincing way, and we're going to keep pushing until we see that.
So to get into some of those tactics.
Okay, so Jerome Powell spoke this afternoon around 2 o'clock. How many people watched that presentation or are going to watch the presentation? And then how many people ran to a talking head and said, well, you know what? I'm going to let the talking head tell me what happened on the presentation because I don't want to watch the presentation. I want the talking head to tell me what happened. Now, no beef with the talking head. That's how they make their money. They know that people don't want to do the work themselves. So they'll compensate me, but for doing the work for them. And then I get the attention. I get whatever I get from it. But how many people watch this guy speak? So this is one of the reasons I'm one of the few people that have ever told Black people, you need to listen to what the Federal Reserve is saying. We're supposed to be worried about racism, which is real. Not saying we're not supposed to be worried about it, but we're supposed to be focused on racism. We're supposed to be focused on gender warring, people's sexuality, I guess critical race theory, and this whole line of things, except the actual organization that creates the monetary policy that determines the value of your dollar in the economy. And I don't mean watching it from this, this secret conspiratorial scenario. I mean understanding how are they communicating what their policy is going to be. Nobody else is telling us, but we've pushed out millions of economists. We've pushed out millions of people. I won't say millions. We've pushed out hundreds of people that got degrees in economics, hundreds of people that got finance PhDs, but we never tell our people to follow what's going on in the markets. Then how do they have an understanding about it? So to me, the goal is never really to help them get an understanding. It's just to keep them attached to us. But I watch these type of things regularly. Who else told people you need to start listening to earnings calls? Right? Most people don't even know what an earnings call is. They're publicly available. They're on the investors page of every publicly owned company. How are you, one, buying the stock of a company, but two, trading the company, and you don't know what the CEO is telling you the plans of the company are, right? So these are the things that, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but what makes me different than a lot of these people, and the reason why I tell us we got to save ourselves, we can't depend on, the quote unquote academic class to save us or the professional class to save us. Why? Because they don't really want to make us independent of them. They want to keep us dependent upon them. That's why they got all their power. My goal is to make you independent of these things and to create groups of people where we can have conversations about this, right? So I can sit on a live stream with me and Miss Alexander, Katrina Alexander, and we could talk about, well, how do we think Federal Reserve monetary policy is going to impact this particular company that's dependent upon low interest rates because their business model is really selling loans and then packaging them loans as securities and then selling them to a special delivery vehicle, right? So because they're going to produce a yield. So that's going to be really, really dependent upon what's the interest rate, because if the rate goes up, it's going to be more difficult for them to sell loans, which means what? They got less things to sell to that special delivery vehicle or the special purpose vehicle who now wants to try to figure out how they can sell that to investors looking for a yield. See what I'm talking about? So we got to understand is that there's a skill set and an understanding of the market that you got to understand to become successful in these markets. I'm 100% believing in that. And so that's why I keep telling people, you need to pay attention to this. You need to pay attention to that, because that's really what's moving this market. I'm going to show you something else. Let me stop this screen.
No question that London is the dirty money capital of the world.
The UK didn't just turn a blind eye to Russian money. We welcomed it.
For many decades now, London has been rolling out the red carpet to corrupt and criminal individuals from around the world.
Britain is a very open financial hub. It's really important that you have really clear, well-enforced rules, and that's something Britain simply doesn't have.
There are key aspects of our legal and financial system that makes the City of London a great place to bring dirty money and launder wealth.
Okay, so the Financial Times got their own YouTube channel, and they produce content, really, really good content. It's a 21-minute like mini documentary about how much money is used by London and their financial system to clean up. And this is a fact. A lot of African leaders send all their money to the UK. A lot of people in other parts of the world send all their money to the UK. This kind of stuff is my entertainment. I'm not saying I don't watch sports every now and then. I'm not saying I won't watch a movie or a TV show, but getting more content around the financial markets and how they actually work and how they actually function is my entertainment. So this is how I got my skills set up. So that's why I can look at a situation like Carvana and say, okay, this is really how they make their money. They sell loans, right? They sell you a loan deal, and then they take that loan deal and they sell it to somebody else looking for a yield. The car is the bait to sell you the loan. It's not a car company. And the reason why I can see that, and 5 years ago I couldn't see it, I would look at Carvana and think, okay, that's a car company. No, they're not. Is because I've got my skill level to where I can look at a situation and look how they're structured and look at their financials and understand what is their real business model, how do they really make money, and then how that's going to be threatened by macroeconomic policy. But I spent the time to do that. So when I wasn't making money, it was because I didn't understand these things. It wasn't because I didn't read a certain book, right? It wasn't because of that. It wasn't because I wasn't in this person's trading group. It wasn't because I wasn't, I didn't have the secret software. It was because I didn't understand enough about the market to understand how to put the pieces together. I understand a lot more about how to put the pieces together than I did just 2 years ago. I'm going to understand more than I did 2 years in the future than I do now. And so that's why I'm so passionate about this particular space, is because this is what's missing out of our education. We have a response a lot of times to situations that totally eliminates market forces on our situation. And then we have people that have been promoted, and all they do is get us to focus on everything except the market, right? So that our response to the situation doesn't involve how the market impacts that situation. And we never figure out how can we impact that situation by understanding the markets. And in my opinion, that's why we're in such a weak position in this world, right? Because we haven't been given the education. And it's deeper than just, we need to start a business. Yeah, we need to start businesses, but we don't understand these spaces, because then maybe we would understand what kind of business would be best beneficial to us and then what kind of business wouldn't. But we don't really understand how markets functions. We really don't. That's a big piece that's missing out of our education. And we're in a market-based world. There's a reason why Jerome Powell and him speaking, literally the whole market goes on hold to see what this guy has to say, because he controls the money supply, or his group controls the money supply. But if you look at the mainstream, what are they talking about? Go to mainstream news and find out, did they even talk about Jerome Powell speaking today? They're going to talk about everything else, right? But inflation is a real thing. We know now with Walmart doing their earnings, and they talked about the impact of inflation. So Walmart is telling them that their customers are being impacted by inflation. These are regular, everyday people. But if you go to the mainstream news publications, what is their main stories? It's not going to be anything dealing with the financial markets. So they've created this shroud of confusion around the average person, where you're never really going to understand the environment that you operate in and how to be successful in that environment, because you understand the rules of the environment. It's not about a trick or a secret thing. It's very in front of your face. They're just never going to talk to you about it, because they don't believe that it's your role to be involved in that. I do. I believe it's your role to be involved in these particular spaces, because we put people in every other space in the world. But for some reason, when it comes to the financial markets, we have Negroes telling us we shouldn't be involved in it, because why? They worried about their position. So they don't want you to get this education, because now you can sit down at a table with them and talk about these particular things, and they don't feel as smart anymore. Because I don't have a finance degree. I'm not a certified financial planner. I'm not a tax professional, but I can talk about these markets. And I told people when Musk bought Twitter, I say he ain't gonna be able to get no money out of Twitter. Why? Because people don't want to pay for Twitter. There's not a market for subscribers for Twitter. There's no market for that. I may not understand how he leveraged the deal financially. I may not understand the tax, the tax implications. I know there's not a market to get people to pay for that platform. There's no market for that. People on Twitter were telling me I wouldn't pay this man $3 a month. As soon as he tried to put $3 a month on Twitter, I'm gone. So he bought a lame duck. He's realizing that now. So because I understand the markets, I can understand what's going on in this world. Let me give you another example. And we talked about this we did a whole video about this. Let me share this screen out real quick. Okay, so here is the market playlist. So everybody that's watching this, I want to really encourage you. You got 44 videos in this playlist. It's got 119. They got to have more than 119 views. But so the playlist got 119 views, my bad. You got 44 videos in this playlist. I would encourage you to go through this playlist. This video right here, while Ron DeSantis and Disney show you why owners run the show. If you sit back and study, what will you notice? That whole situation between Ron DeSantis and Disney, right, is gone away. Why has it gone away? Because we talked about the fact that there's bondholders now in this situation. So it's cool as long as you just cap it on social media, you're doing little press conferences, you're talking like you're stupid. When now investment banks, major corporations feel like you're becoming a threat to their yield, you got another kind of issue. So now once the market got involved in this situation, what do we see now? That whole situation has calmed down. So we talked about that on this particular channel, right? Now, if you notice all the other publications that was talking about this on the Republican side, on the Democratic side, they've gone to another story. Why? Because now once the market got involved, it's a different type of scenario. So that's what I want you to understand. Even Ron DeSantis, a governor of the state of Florida, he had to go find something else to do. Why? Because you can't tell the market that you're going to just take money from them because of this political goal that you got, and you think there's not going to be any pushback behind that. But you don't understand that if you understand the markets. So this is why I tell us that our education is incomplete, and mine was incomplete. And so when you see me do, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but when you see me do $20,000 worth of plays in a week, it's because I understand the markets, right? It's not because I got a special software. It's not because I'm in somebody's trading group and they feeding me plays. It's because I've developed the skills to understand this space. And even though everything happens at the right time and everything happens when it's supposed to happen, I wish I would have known this stuff 10 years ago. Because I'd be really up right now. But everything happened when it's supposed to happen, right? And that's what I want people to realize. And the reason why many of us are not making money, why everybody around us is making money, is because we don't have the skills. We won't go develop the skills, and we're looking to do everything else except be skill competent, right? And it don't mean you just need like technical skills. You need mindset skills. You need psychology skills. You're going to need time management skills, but you got to be very intentional about what you're doing, right? You got to be very intentional. And I'm very intentional about what I do. I spend a lot of time focusing on these markets so I can become a lot better. I spend a lot of time focusing on my understanding of this particular space. And that's why I said, you can sit me down with any of these people that quote unquote took this test or took that test. It don't matter. I can have a conversation with all of them about what I know. Right? I can have a conversation with any of them about what I know. And that's what people got to understand. Because any of these formalized curriculums, you can go on the internet and find the same curriculum. So you can study the exact same thing they studied. They don't have this secret knowledge. Those kind of mystery schools are over with from a mainstream standpoint. Nobody has a formal education can present it like they went to a mystery school. A mystery school is a mystery school. It's not the same thing as a formal education. If I can pay money and get it, it's not a mystery school. So nobody has any special education that other people don't have. It doesn't work that way. But I really want to encourage you to go out in this world and figure out, like, how can I get the success that I have, but be very intentional about it. And then don't look for the quick, fast way. Don't look for I'm going to just get it because I'm hanging around a bunch of people, but I'm not doing the work. Go put the work in if that's what you say you want. And you can figure out how to go get it, because that's how I've done it. And 5 years ago, I didn't even know what an option contract was. I heard of it, but didn't even know what it was. I didn't know what the derivative market was. I knew what stocks were. I didn't even know what a derivative market was. I have people that have come out of my program because I know the work that they put in. 2 of them told me they're getting ready to go into the futures market. They're going to become millionaires out of that futures market. Why? Because I know the kind of work that they put in to develop themselves. Because I saw what they did in the options market. I got another one told me last November, they did like 40,000 on their Amazon store. Now, a lot of people tell you that Amazon FBA don't work anymore. That's cool. They did 40,000 last November. That's some people's whole yearly income. They did that in a month. Why? Because they understand how to get the skills to be successful. All I surround myself with is skill-heavy people. That's all I surround myself with. It's people that are willing to invest in their skills. They're willing to put the time in. That's the only people I want to have conversations with. I try to get all the rest of the people out of my life. Why? Because I dealt with that for so long and it didn't benefit me. And a lot of people going to look up and they're going to be 70 years old and their life ain't going to add up to nothing. Why? Because they never really focused on how to be successful at any one thing. And that's going to be very unfortunate, but it's going to just be what the situation is. They're not going to be by themselves, so it's going to be cool. But everybody around me is skill heavy in what they do. It don't matter what it is. They can be a damn electrician, but they're very skill heavy. They have a really good understanding of their space. I don't hang around a bunch of people that's just talking stupid to me all day. I ain't got time for that. Let me show you something else before we get up on out of here. Let me go here. Let me go to this particular tab. Okay, so here's a video I did with Lance, I want to say last week. Has the stock market found its bottom? Right? This video should have 5,000 views. It don't. The Kevin Samuels video got 5,000 views. Lance was one of the people that was making money when I wasn't making any money in this market. But I learned from Lance, and then I started applying what I was learning from her. But these are the kind of people I surrounded myself with. I didn't worry about all the stuff that mainstream was telling me I need to be worried about. We'll go back again. I focused on my skills and I ignored most everything else. I didn't worry about gender warring. I didn't worry about sexual politics. I didn't worry about this person don't like me because I'm black. They didn't like me 20 years ago. They're not going to like me 20 years into the future, right? I didn't worry about the dating scene. I didn't worry about any of all that because I spent so much time focused on that kind of stuff and I didn't get any yield from it. I was a person to where I would go, back when I lived in Tampa, they had the Tampa newspaper. They had the, this back when they first started doing like comments. I would go on those blogs and be literally 2 and 3 day threads of talking to people in them comments, right? Instead of working on skills that was going to be beneficial to me in the future. Because that's what my focus was on. Trying to prove myself right to somebody on social media, right? These are the kind of things I was focused on. I don't care about any of that stuff now. I focus on surrounding myself with people that are skilled in what they do. They're not just entertainers. They're actually skilled people, right? Even though being an entertainer is a skill, I don't want to be an entertainer. So there's not a lot I can learn from that person. So I don't just hang around the YouTube entertainers. I hang around the people that on YouTube and on social media that actually have a skill. And I can learn something from their skill, or I can learn something from how they approach stuff. And that's who I deal with. And I ignore pretty much everything else. So a lot of the stuff that other people is tripping on, I don't care. Because why? I can't learn any skills from these people. There's no yield that I can get from being around this person, right? So I don't deal with it. I wish them the best, but I'll go do something else. I spend enough time spinning my wheels around people just because they was cool to be around. But I don't have anything to show for it. I don't do that anymore. So I focused on my skills and ignored most everything else. And I know for a fact, most people have not shown me that they really want to focus on their skills to get the success they say they desire. Like I said, videos like this should have 5,000 views, not the Kevin Samuels video. You're not going to learn those skills from that Kevin Samuels video. That's just something for you to talk about. There's no skills being shown in that video. Somebody breaking the markets down like this can put you in a position to make money down the road. Right? So that's why when people tell me they want to be successful, I don't believe them. Because the information is on the internet, the information is available, but it's kind of how you wired yourself. I've wired myself to where this type of information gives me my dopamine rush, not people arguing. It literally gives me a headache now to hear people arguing and yelling on the internet. It just gives me a headache now because I know I'm not going to get no benefit from that. Like, why am I listening to this? Right? So that's what I want people to really understand. So the question we want to ask before we get out of here, and if you got any questions, hit me up in the chat. What are you focused on and what is it getting you in your third dimension? Right? What are you focused on and what is it getting you in your 3D? And that's what you always got to ask yourself. What are you focused on? When I was focused on a lot of BS, that's all I was getting was BS. And I spent a lot of time in my life spinning my wheels, being focused on BS. Right? That's what people got to understand. What are you focused on a day-to-day level? That's what your 3D is going to be. And what are you letting people present in front of you? I do little stuff to try to get people's attention, but I try really hard not to be a negative influence on people's life, because I can be very much a negative influence on your life, right? I try not to be that person anymore because I don't want to drive you off a cliff, right? It's another way. It's a better way to try to help people than to me to try to drive you off a cliff just to get your attention. So I do little things to try to get your attention, but I don't want to be a negative influence in your life. The question is, what are you focused on? Because it's going to be difficult if you're trying to be successful in the markets, you're trying to be successful in business, for you to focus on everything that's not going to allow you to get that success, but then think that you're going to get that success. Our situation is real. That situation in Buffalo is real. That's a real situation. The question is, how do we respond to it in a way in which we don't let people play with our emotions about it? That's what people got to understand. I don't want to talk about the situation in Buffalo for the next 14 days. what is going to be the response to it, and then we develop a response to it, and then we go back to being productive. Not we going to talk about it on social media for the next 14 days. I'm not into doing that type of stuff. And so that's what I want people to understand. We can change things if we focus on the solution and not just focus on talking about the problem ad nauseum. But many people that don't want to do a solution, they're cool with focusing on the problem ad nauseum, because if I want to implement a solution, that means I got to not go do some work. So if we say, you know what, we're going to get money to put people in areas and they're going to be off-duty police, and then therefore they can be more prepared to deal with a certain kind of threat, well, that's going to take money. So now where the money going to come from? So because we don't want to do that because that's going to take money, it's easier for us just to talk about it, right? So that's what I want people to understand, is that I'm aware of stuff, but I don't focus on it. Why? Because I'm not going to let somebody play with my emotions about it. And that's what a lot of what we see going on in the world today. The people that are presenting this information to you, they don't care about that stuff. They want to just play with your emotions for or against. And they just do that over and over and over and over and over again. And I'm telling you, a lot of people are going to look up. They're going to be 75, 80, 90 years old if they blessed, and they're not going to have nothing to show for their life, except they just got caught up in these emotional situations with these people on the mainstream. And I'm not for that. So we're going to go through the questions, baby. We're going to get up on out of here, right? So Peanut Butter Hero says, did I see that Carvana laid off 2,500 employees in the last week? Yeah, I posted that on my community page on YouTube, right? So I saw that. Netflix just fired some people today, and Wayfair said that they're going to do a hiring freeze on all their corporate employees today also. So what we may be seeing with Carvana, that's a whole other scenario. But what we may be seeing with companies is the fact that inflation is so high, they're just deciding they're not going to hire people because it's too expensive now to hire new employees. So we just got to check and figure out how many more corporations say they're going to do hiring freezes, right? Because one of the things that inflation does is it makes hiring people and also paying them more expensive. But yeah, I saw that. I posted that on my community page, I want to say last week, Peanut Butter Hero. So, I don't know if you follow me on social media, but I'm really tapped into these markets, and I've been watching Carvana for, I want to say, over 6 months. Been watching them real hard, right? Still watching them real hard, but I've been watching Carvana real hard. But that's a great question. Okay, so L, what I want you to do is ask me. So when you say we're always in the market, what I mean is that we're always in the market is that the world is one big marketplace. That's what I mean. The world is one big marketplace. So you're always in a market. That's just what that means. So if that answers your question, let me know. But the world is just one big marketplace, right? That's pretty much what has been constructed. Yeah, we got to see how that works. I think he said he wants inflation. He wants unemployment around 4%. I think it's 3%. He wants it around 4%. So I don't know how he gets back to that. We got to see. So, but yeah, I think he wants it 4, maybe 4.5. Yeah, definitely. But that's the game we're playing. But that's what people go to, because most people, in my opinion, feel like their life is bored. They feel like their life is boring. So they're looking to get the dopamine hit from some sensationalism. And that's an old model. It's been working for years. You might be too young to remember. You would go to the supermarket back in the day, and they would have the tabloid papers inside the supermarket. Well, those sold for so long because people felt like my life is boring, so let me read about this other person's life and what they got going on. And those tabloid papers sold for years. They was like the biggest thing in the world before the internet got really, really big. Then the internet took the tabloid business model and made it bigger because you could scale it out a lot farther. But I remember when I was a kid going to the supermarket, and on your way out in the line, you had all the tabloid papers, and they would have all kind of crazy stories about people in Hollywood, and this person did this and this person did that, and those things sold like hotcakes. They made a lot of money for a reason, right? So that model works. It's always worked, because most people think their life is boring. I didn't have a boring life. My life was moving too fast. I had to slow my life down because I was going to crash and I wasn't going to have anything to show for it. All right. And that's why I'm so passionate about what I do, because there's a lot of people out here that's moving real fast, but they're not building anything for their life. And they're going to look up and they're not going to have nothing to show except a bunch of fun memories about how they was running at 100 miles an hour. But it's not going to be nothing to show at the end of that road. Right. And that happens to a lot of people. Yeah, definitely. That's too many. You know, so they got to do something about that. I don't know what they're going to do, but they got to do something about that. They really got to do something about that because Katrina, because we understand capitalism, but it's really my opinion. So I don't want to put my opinion on you. Capitalism wants surplus labor. They don't want surplus jobs. They want more workers than there are jobs. Then they can make people negotiate against themselves to get the job. When we got less jobs or more jobs than there are people, right? So there's not enough people to fill the jobs. They don't like that because then a person ain't got to take what you give them. They want to be so few jobs in your environment that you're just willing to take whatever they give you to go get the job, right? So that's the thing. So yeah, they got to do something about that because that means this system's not working the way they want it to work. Yeah, let's see how that works for them. Let's see how that works out for them. They're supposed to take effect, I think, next year. We'll see what happens between now and next year. But I mean, you see how all the news and all the hype and DeSantis talking crazy about Disney. You see, he cut all that off because I never could find out who actually owned those bonds. But if they're investment banks, they're major corporations, he can't push them out of their money. They're not gonna go for that. That's $1 billion worth of bonds that have been sold. They're not gonna go for that. They'll get rid of him first before they let that guy get rid of their money, and he knows that. So it's a reason why all of a sudden he's calmed down on that particular situation. What's up, Miss Nada Jean? Appreciate it, Mr. Moore. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I use social proof too, so I'm not gonna say I don't use it. So I use it because sometimes with people, they have to believe something can be true. They got to see it in other people before they believe it. Because many of our people don't know anything about the financial markets. It's part of their conditioning in this society because we was never brought over here to operate in those spaces. We was brought over here to be labor. And it's something that's just how, this world still sees us primarily as labor, low paid labor at that, but just labor. So many of us don't even understand that we can operate in certain spaces until we see people having success. What I've tried to do is be very transparent and very honest with it and not be a lifestyle marketer, even though I probably could make a lot more money if I did that, if I went down to like the private airport and took pictures of me on planes and stuff like that. So to me, social proof in some scenarios is legitimate because many of our people, because they haven't been exposed to certain spaces, they don't even realize like we can even make money and we can even operate in these particular spaces. Yeah, definitely. They were supposed to lose it in Florida, but they paid some money to get it turned around. That's initially why I was bearish on them. They were supposed to lose their ability to operate in Florida by January 31st. That's when I started taking a bearish position on them. Then subsequently, the whole market just sold off in I think late January, early February, no, my bad, in November. It started selling off. But I was initially bearish on them because they were supposed to lose their ability to operate in the state of Florida by January 31st. And they went behind the scenes and got some of those representatives to fix it to where they wouldn't lose it. But there's a lot going on there. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you right there. Your workers got too much power. Well, if there's not surplus labor, workers got too much power. The goal of capitalism is to create surplus labor, in my opinion. Right? So if we don't have surplus labor where workers got to negotiate against themselves just to get a job, the system ain't working the way I want it to work. Right? Because then they can't force you to take less money. And that's what they want to do. When there's so many jobs and not enough people cannot pick what they want. So that's the game. Yeah, I saw that. Well, let's see how it goes. Let's see how it goes. You know, let's see how it goes. Luckily for me, my car don't use diesel. Yeah, except unless you Tesla. Yeah, we got to see how that works. I don't know how they ran out of baby food, but I don't have a child. I want to know, can you make baby food? What was people using for baby food before you could go to the store and buy baby food? That's my question. But I didn't know you could run out of baby food. I mean, I'm figuring that their manufacturing was at a level where it could always meet demand. So did they run out of raw materials to make baby food? Like, I don't know how all of a sudden they just looked up and we ran out of baby food. It's weird, but there's a lot of weird stuff going on right now. No, my options trading strategy involves mostly puts. One, because I wanted to show that it can be done. Because most people that teach options only teach calls because they don't understand the downside of the market, right? I think I understand the downside of the market better than 99% of the people that are in the market. So I wanted to show people that you can make money on both sides of the market. Most people have stopped talking about the market, or they're just talking, to me, BS, because we've been in a downturn since November, and most people don't know how to make money in a downturn. The reason why I wanted to get people into the market is to show them, yes, you can buy long term, and also when the market is going down, you can still make money. And I don't teach short selling because I don't teach people to take margin, but you can take margin too. I leave a lot of money on the table because I don't take margin. My account size right now, I could take big margin out. I'm not, but I could. So I do mostly do put plays, but I could do calls because the principles are the same. But I wanted to show people that you can make money on both sides of the market, because most people, when the market turns red, they don't know what to do. It don't matter to me. In fact, I make more money often when I've made more money since November to now than most of these people that's on YouTube. And that's why I keep showing people what I'm doing. I'm getting ready to exit some of my plays this week, and then some of them are also leaps. But people that know me know I was telling them that this was going to happen last year. So that's one of the things is that I try to do both sides of a scenario because I can, and because I want to get people to understand is that as a trader, you don't care where the market is going as long as it's not going sideways, and even then you can make money on the market with spreads and things of that nature. But it doesn't matter what I do, because my trading strategy might not be your trading strategy. It's about the principles. So what I do that ain't got nothing to do with what you're doing. I feel you. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't really. Irvin said he might have meant buying puts. So I buy puts and turn around and sell them. I don't really sell puts like that. I could, but I don't really sell puts on a lot of my positions. Like I could sell puts on NEO. I got enough shares in that. So I don't really sell puts. But if I was selling puts, I would just be selling premium on puts, right? Saying I would buy it at that price that I sold it at, even if it sells off, with the hope that it goes up, right? But what I do is I primarily trade naked. So I buy contracts in which I don't have an equity position in it, and I sell it at a later date based on the movement of that particular equity, right? But I could sell puts on situations like NEO. As another ticker, XOM, I can sell puts on, but I really don't. I'm not a big seller of my positions, even though I could. That's what I was saying with that guy with that Affirm play. Well, one, he could have bought puts and made money on it. He also could have sold calls and made money on it because dude had like $140,000 worth of shares. So he could have traded all around that position. But selling puts is just, you selling put contracts based on your position, with the intent of, I don't mind buying it at a later date if the contract moves against me, or I could just cancel out the contract by buying it. But I'm not a real big guy on selling premium off my equity position. It's just really not how I like to trade. I like to just trade naked. For me, I like to just hold my stocks. I don't like to put them up for risk. But some people will. And so the option is always there. But I wouldn't, like the guy with the Affirm, as it's selling off keep putting new money into it. So if I let's say I got Apple, I got 10,000 shares worth of Apple, and it starts selling off. Well, then I would write put contracts on it. I also would sell calls on it too. And I would try to monetize that downslide instead of me just taking new money and buying into it. And I definitely would do that on a company that is experimental like a firm. But I really guard my shares. That's just me. Everybody different. I like to keep my stuff. I'll buy contracts that got nothing to do with my equity positions, but I know how to trade around an equity position. It's a strategy. And all you got to do really, if you get, and I got a video on that, if the contract moves against you, you can just go buy the contract back. And then you just zero out your position. I think they call it zero delta. And then you ain't got to worry about it. But that Affirm guy, instead of him spending all that money on that position, he could have sold puts, right? Sell puts against his position, and they call them cover puts. He could have sold cover calls, and then he may have to give up his shares or buy more Affirm, but he believes in Affirm. So he takes the premium from what he sold and just puts that back into buying more Affirm because you claim you believe in Affirm. But in my opinion, not investment advice, Affirm now is at a good price. It's about $25. I would buy it at this price, but I definitely wouldn't have bought it at $100. Dude was tripping with that, but that's him. You know, he got money, so he could do that. You know, that's his money. He can do what he want to do with it. Yeah, definitely risk management. You know, and it's all about how you want to trade. Like hedge funds and big firms do that all the time. They take an equity position, they sell puts, sell calls, do spreads. They do all kind of stuff just to make money off their position because their job is just to try to monetize a position. And they're not really worried about having to buy more shares because they're really holding a long-term position. They also buy stuff and loan it out. That's something else they do. They do a lot of whatever makes them money, they're going to do. You know what I'm saying? They know they're going to do. Yeah. Geechee Dan, there's a guy, older dude. He teaches his people how to short sell. I do put contracts because, like I said, is that I don't want to teach people to take on margin. I'm not going to be the person to teach that to them. They can learn it from somebody else because you can get wiped out doing that. But I do believe people should learn the short side of the market because you're 100% correct. They know the institutional traders, the prop traders, the hedge funds, they know the average person doesn't know the short side of the market. That's why you got these guys that own all that that AMC and that GameStop, and instead of them selling premium or buying puts, they're just buying it at a lower price, which I don't get because you're not going to make the price go up by doing that. But that's their understanding of the market. You know, just keep buying the equity up. Cool. I mean, do what you do. But I wouldn't recommend that. Right now, if I was in GME, I definitely would be selling puts on that. Because I wouldn't want to own it. I don't see any value in that company 5 years from now. Apple, I do. Neo, I think got a lot of potential. XOM, most definitely. But I don't see any value in GameStop. So I wouldn't care what happened to my equity position in GameStop. I just would try to make as much money as I could off of it while I had it. Same thing with AMC. I would be ripping and running with AMC. If I had 5,000 shares of AMC, I'd be ripping and running with that thing. Well, I wouldn't care because, I mean, that stock ain't going to be worth nothing in 5 years anyway. So I wouldn't care what happened to it. I would try to figure out how can I make as much money as possible on my AMC position while I got it right now. Because to me, it ain't no but a matter of time before that thing goes back to $5. And then it's going to be next to impossible for it to get up over that because the business is not going to be there. All right, Greg, I got you, man. I'll hit you up tonight. So that's pretty much going to be the questions. I hope people got some value from it. And I want to really encourage you, like, if you're trying to figure out how to make money in this market, just focus on that and be very intentional and stop being distracted by this other stuff. I know, you know, you're going to have some distractions. There are some really important news stories in the world that we can be aware of, but don't let that derail you from what you're trying to do. Because a lot of the solutions that we need in this world, there's going to be a price tag attached to it. So if we don't have the success financially, we're never going to be able to come up with a solution. And a lot of these people, man, they're just here to agitate us, right? They just jump on social media, they jump on television, and they just essentially poke us. They just keep poking us with a stick to see how we react to it. because that's how they make their money. But we don't have any solution to the problem. And then we show up the next day so they can poke us with a stick again. I'm just not really into that. And so I want to really encourage people to like really focus on what's going to allow you to get success. And then you could turn back around and impact some of these particular situations as opposed to just, being distracted by it. So hope everybody got value from it. This is David W. Williams, also known as Diamond Dave. I'll talk to you later.